Breaking this morning, President Joe Biden speaks for the first time since the election, the US now preparing for a Trump presidency, and how Australia could be impacted under Trump's rule. Breaking in Sydney's West, a man accused of stealing war memorial plaques now in custody. A teenager behind the wheel of a stolen car charged over a fatal crash. 13 people arrested and a drug ring revealed after a $40,000 sting. And Prince William wraps up a 4-day tour of Cape Town today, Friday, the 8th of November 2024. Good morning and welcome to Today Early News. We begin with breaking news in the US, where Joe Biden has spoken for the first time since Donald Trump's landslide election victory. The current president saying Kamala Harris ran an inspiring campaign.
She gave her whole heart and effort, and she and her entire team should be proud of the campaign they ran.
Live now to US correspondent Alison Petrowski. Ali, he kept the speech short and sweet.
Yeah, Jane, only 7 minutes, and all of it was pretty upbeat, praising Kamala Harris for her efforts, as you heard there, and also thanking his own staff for supporting him in his last 4 years of office. Jane, he also spoke about the country bringing down the political temperature, no more rhetoric, he said, and also he urged the divided country to accept the choice that America made.
Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. Because I know it's a difficult time. You're hurting. I hear you and I see you. But don't forget all that we accomplished. It's been a historic presidency. Not because I'm president, because of what we've done.
Jane, that peaceful transfer of power was not afforded to Joe Biden when he entered the White House 4 years ago and took over from Donald Trump. So that felt like he was making a point there. He also said that he hoped that Americans realise that the result of this election shows that there is electoral integrity in this country, Jane. This address was given in the Rose Garden this morning. He did not take questions from the press pack, Jane, and I have to say that most reporters there were incredibly frustrated. And that is because the Democrats largely feel that Joe Biden is at least partly responsible for Kamala Harris's loss. They feel like he held on too long, that Kamala Harris was left to, build the plane while flying. And if it wasn't for Joe Biden's ego, then perhaps the Democrats might have stood a chance against Donald Trump. Jane?
Ali, thank you. And the soon-to-be 47th President of the United States is right now looking at who will form his team after winning the election. Live to US correspondent Jonathan Kersley, who's outside the Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Jonathan, they'll have lots of promises to follow through on.
Yeah, he's got lots of campaign promises to follow through on, but he's also been unusually quiet for the last couple of days, ever since making that speech at the Palm Beach County Convention Centre and making his way back here to Mar-a-Lago. It is understood that he is obviously poring over who will be part of his close team. A decision could start coming in a matter of days. His key campaign advisor, Susie Wiles, may well become the first female chief of staff at the White House. And obviously there's plenty of eyes too on who will be his Attorney General, given that we've had the reports that the Special Prosecutor, Jack Smith, may well be starting to wind down the federal prosecutions against him. That shows just how significant this win for Donald Trump was on a personal level, just as much as a political level. We've obviously heard plenty of talk around RFK Jr. taking on some sort of health role, and Elon Musk, the world's richest man, and his billionaire supporter, taking on a role in government efficiency. We've also seen some images emerge, Jane, in the past little while showing Donald Trump giving Elon Musk and his children a tour inside Mar-a-Lago, taking them into the Donald Trump gift shop, if you believe that. Yes, there is one inside his very own home. That is understood to have taken place yesterday before the pair had lunch. But obviously there's some significant decisions for Donald Trump to make in the couple of months he has now until the inauguration, where he will become America's 47th Commander-in-Chief.
Jonathan Kersley, thank you. To breaking news now in Sydney's West, where a man has been arrested after allegedly stealing multiple war memorial plaques and leading police on a chase which ended in flames. The 34-year-old was brought to a halt in Fairfield after crashing into a shop, his vehicle then erupting. Authorities seized the brass plaques along with multiple weapons before the suspect was taken to hospital under police guard. Former Wallaby and NRL legend Wendell Saylor has been charged with assault after allegedly getting into a fight with patrons at a popular bar in Sydney's CBD. Police say the alleged punch-up spilled out into an alleyway before the 50-year-old attempted to re-enter Pappy's bar, the manager then ordering him to leave. Saylor was granted bail and will appear in court later this month. Police in Melbourne are hunting for the driver of a truck who failed to stop following a fatal crash on a major freeway. It's understood a ramp fell off the vehicle on the M80 ring road around 4 p.m. yesterday before it struck a car travelling in the opposite direction.
If you saw a white trade truck, or if you were the driver of a truck matching that description, come and talk to us. Please let us know, because we need to try and find some answers for this poor lady's family.
The truck was last seen travelling towards Altona. The victim, who died at the scene, has not yet been identified. A self-described neo-Nazi will be sentenced today after becoming the first Victorian to be found guilty of performing the Nazi salute in public. The act taking place outside a Melbourne court last year. The magistrate said last month that Jacob Hersant will go to jail, but for how long will be decided this morning. Meanwhile, 4 other right-wing extremists, including Thomas Sewell, have now been charged with intimidating a police officer and disrupting a refugee protest last month. A 16-year-old boy has been charged with manslaughter after a crash involving a suspected stolen Audi claimed the life of a 69-year-old grandmother north of Brisbane. An unmarked police car was also hit in the crash at Marumba Downs yesterday, leaving 2 officers with minor injuries.
Unfortunately, in all best efforts of QPS and QAS on scene, the female was unable to be resuscitated and has since passed away. As you can imagine, it was a very high-impact collision.
The teen is also believed to have been inside this allegedly stolen Holden, which was seen tailing the Audi just before it was carjacked. A $40,000 bag of cocaine has been thrown from a Melbourne apartment tower as detectives made their move on an alleged citywide drug ring. 13 people were arrested, police seizing over $1.4 million worth of drugs and property. 8 of those arrested are facing up to 25 years in jail, now charged with trafficking commercial quantities of cocaine and ketamine. Optus has been hit with a $12 million penalty after last year's nationwide outage disrupted calls to 000. The communications watchdog says the telco failed to provide access to emergency calls for more than 2,000 people during that failure. Let's take a look at the top sports stories now. And Kangaroos fullback Dylan Edwards says a win on Sunday in the Pacific Championships final would cap the best year of his career. The 28-year-old made a dream debut for the Blues in their State of Origin series victory before going on to claim a 4th straight premiership with Penrith.
I haven't really had time to think about it, to be honest. It's been week after week, but that's something I'll do in the coming weeks after. But yeah, it's been a great year, and as team success, it's been awesome too. So that's why you play it to be part of a team, and I hope to be part of these teams as well.
The Kangaroos were embarrassed 30-0 by New Zealand in last year's decider, but will face Tonga this time around after they shocked the Kiwis last week. Brisbane's 2024 AFL Premiership hasn't quenched Dane Zorko's thirst for success. The Lions veteran turns 36 early next year, but isn't ready to even think about hanging up the boots yet.
Honestly, I just absolutely love playing for this club. My body's in really good shape. I feel like I'm just going around in a circle because it's the same thing I said last year. But look, I'll definitely know when the time's right, and I don't think it is that at the moment.
Zorko and teammate Josh Dunkley on hand to inspect the new limited edition 4X Gold Lions Premiership beer cans. Let's take a look at the weather now, and a heat wave will scorch large parts of Queensland today, with temperatures in Brisbane climbing to 33 degrees. But it'll be even hotter in Longreach, up to Mount Isa and Julia Creek, reaching between 41 and 43 degrees. Meanwhile, the state's southeast is being warned to prepare for thunderstorms. And Sydney is also in for a scorcher today, with most of the city forecast to hit the low 30s. The hot, dry and windy conditions prompting a total fire ban across the city. Now looking at weather across the rest of the country, starting in Canberra now, a top of 24 degrees and clear skies. Partly cloudy and 20 in Melbourne, 17 with a shower or 2 for Hobart. Adelaide, 21 and some morning rain, 23 and showers throughout the day in Perth, and 35 with possible rain for Darwin. Straight ahead on Today Early News, how Australia's future could be impacted by a Trump presidency. Plus, protesters and climate activism, Prince William wraps up a 4-day tour of Cape Town. And say it ain't so, why Raygun is retiring from competitive breakdancing. Right across Australia, this is Today Early News on 9, and when you go, we're streaming on 9 Now. Welcome back to Today Early News. A man who killed 2 women in 24 hours could be free in less than 8 years after striking a plea deal in a Melbourne court. The 24-year-old was initially charged with murder after attacking 2 sex workers and robbing them of thousands of dollars to fuel his gambling addiction. Facing up to 25 years in jail, he had his sentence reduced to 14 years after striking a plea deal for manslaughter. Economists are warning Donald Trump's plan to impose trade tariffs on China would cost Australia billions of dollars in income. Federal politics reporter Claudia Vrdoljak explains.
The change in leadership could have significant security and economic implications for Australia. If the United States hits Beijing with tariffs, experts say our economy will take a hit too.
Our biggest trading partner is China. If you put tariffs on China, slow down their economy, that means their demand for our exports will go down and incomes of our workers will go down who produce those commodities. That'll mean that we have less produced in Australia. Some of our exports will be redirected, but not enough to offset the $5 to $10 billion worth of economic loss.
There are challenges ahead, despite Donald Trump telling Prime Minister Anthony Albanese our nations will be perfect friends in a phone call earlier today.
President Trump has run a campaign based on change and he's made it clear he's going to do things differently. So we shouldn't be surprised as things change.
Together we are stronger, and we will make sure, Mr Speaker, that President Trump is not somebody to be scared of, but somebody that we can work very closely with.
The PM says it was a constructive conversation as they work to strengthen the alliance, putting past comments in the past.
He scares out of me.
It is feasible that you'll one day meet him.
I'll probably be more polite than that.
And Australia's ambassador to the US, Kevin Rudd, wiping old social media posts, including one where he described Donald Trump as destructive.
I heard he was a little bit nasty.
You were a destructive president, a traitor to the West.
He won't be there long if that's the case. I don't know much about him.
Kevin Rudd and senior cabinet ministers have since spent many months working on building bridges with Republicans in Washington.
Families of accused Palestinian attackers in Israel will now be deported to the Gaza Strip or other locations under a new law passed in Israel's parliament. The law applies to relatives who know of an attack or have expressed support for one. Over 55,000 people have been hospitalised in just 1 week due to record high air pollution in Pakistan's capital. The city of Lahore hit a record 1,100 on the Air Quality Index chart. Anything above 300 is considered hazardous. The capital is already considered the world's most polluted city. 13 tonnes of cocaine has been found stashed behind bananas in a shipping container in what's being called Spain's biggest drug bust on record. Police pounced on a port in the country's south after it arrived from Ecuador. 1 person has been arrested while officers are still tracking down 2 of the export company's managers. Prince William has been heckled by protesters as he wrapped up a 4-day tour of Cape Town in South Africa. Live now to our Europe correspondent, Hannah Sinclair. Hannah, what was the Prince's response?
Good morning, Jane. Well, Prince William didn't seem fazed by the small number of anti-monarchy protesters who were telling him to go home. They joined a crowd of fans who were clearly very excited to meet the Prince during his visit to Cape Town. The Prince of Wales spent his last day in South Africa meeting volunteers from the National Sea Rescue Institute station before boarding a sea rescue boat for a quick cruise on the water. William's in South Africa for his annual Earthshot Prize Awards, which gives $2 million in grants to 5 climate-friendly businesses every year. The Prince of Wales was joined by some other famous faces for the tour, including supermodel Heidi Klum and our very own Robert Irwin, who is an ambassador for the awards. Now, Princess Kate and the kids didn't join Prince William for the trip, but he'll be returning here to the UK with some gifts, including a jar of jam and seaweed earrings for Kate. Jane?
I'm sure she will love them, Hannah. Thank you. Well, everyone's favourite B-girl, Reagan, has announced she's retiring from competitive breakdancing after going viral for her Olympic performance in Paris this year. The 37-year-old says she'll be stepping away because of the backlash and scrutiny she faced for her unique routines.
That seems really difficult thing for me to do now, to approach a battle. The level of scrutiny that's going to be there, and you know, the people will be filming it and it'll go online, and it's just not going to mean the same thing.
Reagan's now signature moves are, however, proving to be a moneymaker for her, recently landing her a job promoting Richard Branson's cruise line. Taking a look at the markets now on Wall Street, the Dow Jones is up by another 60 points after a huge day yesterday, and the S&P 500 is also in the green. At home, the All Ords closed on a high yesterday, gaining 25 points. Not so good in London, though, the FTSE ending 25 lower. Commodities and gold is at $2,699 an ounce, silver at 31 and oil at $74 a barrel. Coming up on Today Early News, Tonga preparing for the biggest rugby league game in the country's history. Plus, the Wallabies take a gamble on a cross-code hopper for Sunday's huge test against England. And a very rare slice of Queen Elizabeth's wedding cake sells for an unprecedented amount. Yummy. Well, welcome back to Today Early News. Our top stories now direct from the 9 newsroom this Friday. Breaking overseas in the US, where Joe Biden has broken his silence after Trump's historic re-election. The president calling on Democrats to stay engaged and get back up. A 16-year-old boy charged with manslaughter over a fatal crash in a stolen car that claimed the life of a beloved grandmother. And breaking in Sydney's West, a man arrested after allegedly stealing war memorial plaques and triggering a police pursuit. Sport now, and Aidan Whanua-Blake says the Pacific Championships final against the Kangaroos will be the biggest game in Tongan Rugby League history and a career highlight if they can pull off an upset victory.
This is more than just a game for me. This game just represents what my family came to Australia for. You know, they come here for a better life, and I'm the one reaping the rewards through them for all their hard work and all their sacrifices. You know, sort of pinch myself, like, you know, these moments don't really come along that often for people, you know, and I'm just going to take the opportunity with both hands.
The Pacific Cup kicks off 4 p.m. Australian Daylight Savings Time. Catch all the action live and free here on 9. The Tigers are hunting any kind of advantage for their elimination final against Port Adelaide, sending staff to scrimmage and scout the ground at Alberton. Sunday's game will be the first time the Tigers play in Adelaide since 2020, but they are embracing the challenge.
We rate them highly. We know that they're number 2 for pressure in the competition. They love to surge the ball forward, and that their game stands up in finals footy. So we'll have a big task on our hands.
The AFLW finals kick off tonight with a qualifying final between the Kangaroos and the Crows. Just 47 days since his last game in the NRL, and code hopper Joseph Suaalii will debut as an outside centre for the Wallabies. Australian coach Joe Schmidt taking a necessary gamble by naming Joey in the starting side, giving him as much game time as possible before next year's Lions series.
From whatever perspective, we've got a confidence that he'll adapt really well. If it's not well enough, well, at least it's a first step toward him becoming more comfortable and adapting to a slightly different sort of code.
Test veterans Will Skelton and Samu Kerevi are notable absences from the team set to face England on Sunday morning. The race to become Australia's next test opener has taken a late twist. Nathan McSweeney failing to tick the last box in his audition for a baggy green after being dismissed for 14 in Australia A's first innings against India A. It's left the door ajar for Marcus Harris to launch a late charge, who'll return to the crease today with an unbeaten 26. Meanwhile, there's been a cruel injury blow for Michael Neser, the paceman taking 4 early wickets before suffering a hamstring strain. Stay with us. Coming up, a 77-year-old slice of Queen Elizabeth's wedding cake goes under the hammer. And then it's time for Today, but first, your local weather forecast. Hi guys, this is Today Early News, live on 9 and 9 Now. We'll talk about a piece of cake. This slice was part of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip's 9-foot wedding dessert 77 years ago, and it's just been sold. The sweet treat went for $2,800 at auction this week. It was originally gifted to one of the royal couple's housekeepers back in Edinburgh in 1947. I'm sure it'll taste delicious. Let's take a look at today's weather now. A heat trough is stretching from the northern interior of Western Australia across the NT, southern Queensland and northern New South Wales, bringing with it clouds and thunderstorms. Temperatures around the country today, 33 and a shower or two for Brisbane, sunshine and a top of 30 in Sydney, 24 and clear skies in Canberra, Melbourne partly cloudy and 20, some rain predicted in Hobart, a top of 17, morning showers and 21 in Adelaide, Perth 23 and rainy, and in Darwin a muggy and wet 35-degree day. Tomorrow, Brisbane can expect grey skies and a top of 32, 23 and a possible shower in Sydney, Canberra mostly sunny and 25, 21 and partly cloudy for Melbourne, and in Perth 27 and partly cloudy. It's coming up on 5:30 now. Here are today's top stories.